All right, getting back to our discussions, our telephone number here is 524-1080. You have the opportunity to call and to share your opinions with regards to my views on the presidential election. And I've sort of stayed more on the issue of domestic affairs than the discussions there. What is missing in the domestic affairs is the discussion about human rights, discussion about drone planes, and that might be more on the international area, but there's no real debate between the candidates on the use of drones, although in the international arena there is a lot of issues coming up, and essentially the statement that the United States is violating international law and humanitarian law by the use of drones with the treatment of civilians being killed. And it seems that the American policy is that if they're within fighting age, that they are not considered to be innocent civilians, and if they are located in the territory, they just count them as suspected terrorists. But the international community is not very happy with the United States, and we're not hearing enough of that challenge being raised in the international community by the media, the general media that we are getting. So that's one issue that is not being appropriately discussed. The second is with regards to gay and lesbian rights, a very important issue, it seems, within the United States, and yet it is not being made a topic of conversation. And I'll get to that later on. I think on that matter, both with regards to marriage, the right to marry, and with regards to service in the military. I think as regards service in the military, on that issue, Obama has essentially won, because even within the military personnel are now, even if they had been against it, are now more accepting of it and not making it an issue. And so I think the general favor has gone in the direction that Obama has pushed the military into adopting that position. There had been some criticism, and there was some punishment for that criticism by, who was that, General McNichols, for his criticizing the Obama policy. With regards to marriage, I think Obama had taken a position which he really didn't have to take, because the issue of marriage is really not a federal question. It is conceitedly a state question, and it is up to the states to take on that position. Obama did jump into that field and stated his position on that issue, following up on Joe Biden's comment with regards to that issue. That sort of sucked Obama into making that statement. But at least the statement is clear what his views are with regards to human rights between people of different sexual propensities or sexual proclivities, is that the word for it? So he has been far more liberal. Now, I believe that Mitt Romney would not be in agreement with Barack Obama, but he has not made that or has stated what his position is or would have been on that matter. So it's not really an issue that has been raised. Now let's see. And the next issue, which is really a distraction, are issues such as the birthers, still there and still making claims that really make no sense other than to show some underlying motivation for being anti-Obama, as far as I am concerned, because there's no logical steps to take after one clears the hurdle that Obama has met the constitutional requirements for presidency. So you start with, what's his name, this millionaire who had run for president, very short run, and it comes all the way down. Even locally, people are continually trying to gripe about that. But that's really a distraction rather than anything else. The other distraction is a fast and furious issue now being raised by Congressman Boyner, who is trying to get more documents out of Mr. Holder, who is the Attorney General for the United States. Holder says, look, I produced, 3,000 records. What more do you want? And we are trying to meet all of your requirements. Boyner says, well, you're still not meeting it. We want more documents, and charged Holder with contempt of Congress. And as a result, the presidential administration steps in and says, well, we are then invoking executive privileges in this case. The executive privilege issue was raised when Nixon refused to turn over tapes, saying that these were private tapes or these belong merely to the executive. The U.S. Supreme Court said, actually, no, the tapes should be part of the public domain. So this may be an issue that goes up to the Supreme Court. But in terms of the campaign that is going on, it's really not having any impact on how one evaluates what the underlying issues are. So I don't see that is really an issue to be of any significant merit. Okay, so that's my comments, and again, I invite your telephone calls. Telephone number here is 524-1080. I did notice that someone had called during the music, but had not stayed on the line. If you would like to participate and share some of your views on this matter, the lines are open, and we welcome your telephone call. Other things happening in the news, I think I've covered most of it. I did want to talk about polls that find that both the president and the Republican challenger are sort of neck and neck on the issues. And I think it's still early to do an appropriate analysis of the issues and the outcome of the race. Let's go to our telephone line. 524-1080 is our number. Aloha caller. Welcome to the program.
I think I got a bad line, but the thing I was going to call about is the NBC. They doctored another tape.
Okay, give me some background. I don't know what you're talking about.
Mitt Romney's speech. They had it where they tried to show that he was like ignorant or something about business. Mm-hmm. But then the thing is, there was a person with those cell phones.
Yes.
And he took the whole tape and turned it into the other network. And they found out that they took out like at least about a minute and a half of the sentence.
Okay. Can you tell me what was the NBC report and what was taken out?
Something about I think it had to do with the economy. They had about Hoagie or something, a place called Hoagie, and Mitt Romney was trying to explain the difference between the public sector and the private sector. But overall, they were trying to show him like he's like out of touch with the whole thing. Mm-hmm. But they took out about a minute and a half off, like they did with the Silverman tape.
Okay, now what I want to do, because I had not seen the tape, so I don't understand the underlying issues. But if you can assist by explaining what Mitt Romney had wanted to say and how it applies to the economy.
Is that sometimes some of the I have a bad line over here, but when I was going to say that some of the stations are getting involved in this politics stuff. They should just stay off of it and just report. Mm-hmm. Okay, I gotta get going. Bye.
All right, thank you. And if any of you are familiar with what this caller was talking about, you can give me a call. Our telephone number here is 524-1080. And I'm sorry, I'm just not familiar with any part of his telephone calls. So if you can clarify and engage in a discussion as to and what your point of view may be with regards to what Romney had said, that would be helpful. Again, you are listening to Hawaiian Potpourri. I am Poka Lainui, and you are listening to radio station KWAI 1080 on your AM dial. All right. Now, the next topic that I wanted to take up is with regards to a local issue, and the local issue seems to be around the continuing question of rail. It's Cayetano versus rail. That seems to be what the mayoral race in Honolulu is all about. I'm taking from an article written by Richard Boreka, and he talks about politics. He's a editorialist on politics, and the article appeared in Friday's newspaper in Views and Voices. Now, Boreka writes, and I think the best way to present his argument is just presenting his article. He says that the PRP's attacks on Cayetano is bogus and unfortunate. And to get into the meat of his position, the details are somewhat important. So I'm going to try to give you some of those details. He says their impeccable wood-paneled downtown offices make you feel this is a solid institution with vision. The conference room has a dramatic view along Hotel Street to the state capitol. But the folks running the Pacific Resource Partnership, that's PRP, are lacking the perspective to go along with the view. PRP is a partnership between the Hawaii Carpenters Union and the state's big contractors designed to boost the building industry. Obviously, PRP is in love with the city's $5.3 billion heavy rail project and is devoting whatever it takes, according to Executive Director John White, to stop former Governor Ben Cayetano from becoming Honolulu mayor. Cayetano is against the city's program and in favor of a bus rapid transit system. Instead of launching a program to defend or promote rail, PRP went on the attack. While there is much to be discussed about both the city's and Cayetano's transit plans, PRP is plunging ahead with a new television commercial and a website claiming, quote, Cayetano ignored the public interest for his own public gain. Back in May, PRP attacked Cayetano, claiming that he didn't return illegal campaign contributions. The argument is that Cayetano's last campaign for governor, back in 1998, had about $500,000 in donations from people and corporations that improperly donated. The contributors either gave more than the limit or they gave through fake names or companies. The contributors were caught and punished by the State Campaign Spending Commission and its hard-charging executive director, Bob Watada. PRP's May argument was largely ignored, so White returned this week with another charge. While White insisted that Cayetano, quote, use a loophole to avoid paying back $500,000 in illegal campaign contributions. According to White, who besides interpreting state campaign law, is apparently also versed in the theology of the spending rules, Cayetano is not obligated to pay back any of that money legally, but morally we believe he should, according to White. For his part, Cayetano says he did what the law required him to do. The Cayetano campaign had a surplus of $8,655, which was turned over to the Spending Commission. The Cayetano campaign was then closed. Okay, we'll continue with that article. I do have a caller on the line, so let's go to the caller. Aloha, caller. Welcome to the program.
Aloha, Poko.
Yes, aloha.
Oh, I cannot hear you.
Yeah, how about now? Any better?
Yeah, at least I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, in this matter that you were, I guess it's just from the opinion part of the bulletin.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, I didn't know that John White held this position before, and that he's in position to know that, yeah, the campaign he worked with did the same thing, didn't they?
That was Mazie Hirono's campaign?
Yeah.
Yeah, and, yes.
So it's just a kind of, well, I mean, what if Cayetano would have announced tomorrow, hey, I'm for rail, you know, let's be more rail. Would John White continue to do this?
Yeah, it doesn't. Obviously not.
I mean, if you keep doing it, then hey, because it's personal.
Yeah. Well, it seems like
personal. It's just that he opposed rail, right? Whoever it was, whether it was Cayetano or you, Poca, right? If you said the same thing Cayetano is saying, wouldn't you also become now personal, right? I mean, you know, they're gonna be looking at you.
Yeah, instead of addressing the underlying issue, is rail good or is rail not good? And that's what the debate should be about. So this kind of campaigning and backbiting and essentially coming from the side and attacking Ben Cayetano when he is a campaign, not against White, but he's in a campaign against Carlisle and Caldwell. So it's a distraction. It will take more money out of Cayetano's campaign, and yet it does raise the public awareness. And so they see, I think the public actually sees the race as between Ben Cayetano or rail. And rail is split between Caldwell and Carlisle. So as long as they make it Cayetano versus rail, I think it only improves Cayetano's chance, because even if rail supporters were in the majority, their votes will split. And so it puts Cayetano in a good seat, in a good position.
I just hope there's enough people who can cut through the chase and see the really important parts of this issue. And, you know, there's certain facts about it, regardless of whether you're for or against it. I think some people who are for the rail, they don't accept that it will really have no discernible effect as far as relieving congestion, right? A lot of them probably are aware of it but don't want to acknowledge that, huh?
I think so. Sometimes they get so, so engrossed in the support for it that they cannot see any benefits on the other side. You know, there was an interesting question in a totally different context, and that was in a race for prime minister in Norway. And the positions were very strong against one another. And so one of the interviewers asked one proponent of one position, saying, can you find anything good or anything positive about the other position? And so one candidate says, well, yeah, there are some positive attributes. It's this, and that. But in total, I would still agree with our position, which is a fair position. The other candidate says, absolutely not. There is no merit to what they're saying. And that candidate lost. And it was this kind of syndrome that people get so caught up with that they cannot even say, well, that's a good point, and that's something that we need to deal with, to treat. But we concede that there is that good point. It seems like too many politicians are not able to overcome their own, I don't know what it is, but ambition for the office or their own ego or whatever it is, that they have to deny the goodness, any aspect of goodness in the opponent. And I think in the last presidential election, who was it? Obama versus, what was it?
McCain.
Yeah, McCain. And I saw a part of McCain when one of the women who had, the microphone started talking about Obama, and that he was an evil man, and he was a Muslim, and he was no good. And so McCain essentially took the microphone away from her. And he said, no, that's not the case.
Yeah.
You know, he has a different point of view from us, but we need to respect him. So it gave him a sense of humanity. It made him human and not just one of these other people who get carried away with political races.
Well, Obama, I was really troubled by this, about what I heard of him. What I heard that went on during the crafting of the Affordable Care Act.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Evidently, remember, Obama was telling the public, the U.S., that he was standing up for them to the drug companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall that?
Yes.
Well, there are emails to document that while he's doing this,
Mm-hmm.
he is telling the drug companies, right, in private, hey, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I came across an email also, and it troubles me, but I'd like to see what the response is. And it hasn't, ripened to that position of, well, let's hear from Obama. The other position I always have in political races is, what is the alternative? You know, what is the opponent's position on these kinds of stuff? The Affordable Care Act, I support. I can understand that I don't like what Obama did with regards to single payer, or the opportunity to simply purchase from the government. And so the Democrats caved in. But they had to negotiate, they had to get it out of Congress, and they didn't get it out of Congress. So overall, I'm happy with the Affordable Care Act, although there's certain pieces that I would disagree with. The alternative is no such act, which is more people going uninsured. So,
as someone who works in that field, I'm certainly going to respect your opinion, and not really be able to argue against that.
Mm-hmm.
However, telling the public what he said, and then actually telling the people that you are standing up to, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's being disingenuous, at the least. Yeah.
Yeah.
So should you trust him?
Well, I think it's maybe a little too early to tell. Let's see what his response is to those specific charges.
And but that's not all. That's not all.
Mm-hmm.
So many other things that he is acts of omission or commission. Didn't he sign an executive order greatly increasing the authorities' ability to apprehend?
Oh, that, yep, you're right.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, you know, I suspect a lot of people are cringing at what's happening with Obama. It's got to be, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, they are so very distinguished and really highly successful people, right? And I wonder how many of them really feel concerned, troubled by what has happened in these 3 years, or 4 years, over 3 years now.
Yeah. Well, as I was saying, whenever you deal with politics, it's always, but if not him, then who? And that, I'm saying in this case, is the lesser of the two evils.
Well, problem is we don't have to let him be the leader. Change can come from the ground up until you force the top to acknowledge that here is reality.
Okay.
And I don't really look to these guys for leadership.
Yeah, you're right.
Either Romney or, because in one way or usually multiple, they've one.
You know, I have to run off now because my time is almost up.
Kaulana na pua o Hawaii Kupa ama hope o ka aina Iki mai ka elele o ka loko ino Pala pala anunu me ka paka Mane mai Hawaii moku o ke ave Koku ana honoa o Pilani Ka ko o mai kaua I o mano Paapu me ke one o ka kuhi hewa Aolea e kau I ka pulima Maluna o ka pepa o ka enemi Po o hui ai nā ku ai hewa I ka pono si